Filming.
My name is Chris, and I grew up just outside New York City. In college, I've been studying economics and global development, and kept hearing this one statistic. Around the world, there are over 1.1 billion people living on less than $1 a day.
You had to spend $1 a day.
One day, all I have is $1.
Let me think.
$1 a day.
$1 a day?
$1 a day, I'd probably be giving up everything.
What can you even do for $1?
I couldn't imagine how so many people survive with so little. With just $1 a day, how do they pay for food, for clean water, for their kids' education? What about emergencies?
Do you have a plan?
Well, that's the problem. Is it's hard to anticipate what the 2 months are going to bring, but so no, we don't really know what we're packing for. 3 friends and I devised a plan to live on just $1 a day ourselves for the next 2 months. We got 2 pairs of pants, 3 shirts, 3 pairs of boxers, a rain jacket, and a sweatshirt.
Why do it?
I mean, I think it's just an amazing opportunity to learn for myself what it really means to live under $1 a day, which, coming from this reality, I can't really say I have any idea. I love you too.
Sweating like
I
crazy.
think you're sweating because of the heat or your nerves?
I'm nervous. Like the village and the people and those stories.
Pana! Eso, muy bien, gracias. We are headed about 4 hours outside of Guatemala City to a Mayan village called Peña Blanca. We want to study rural poverty because most of the extreme poor live in rural villages and work as day laborers or farmers. In Guatemala, 50% of the population and nearly 75% of Mayans and other natives are living in poverty. Why is it that indigenous people are more likely to be poor here? How do we define who is poor and what is poverty? What does poverty mean beyond this $1 a day statistic? We have no idea what these next 2 months will bring, but these are some of the hard questions we want and need to explore.
Is that really where we're gonna get water from?
I think this is the central water spot though. And this is where they were getting water from this morning. We could ask someone else.
¿Ustedes usan este para el agua? Oh, dude, there's a bug in there. Sean, you should check this stuff out. That's actually how much stuff is in there.
We're really gonna drink this water for 2 months? I haven't seen any other way to get water. Dude, I hope no one gets sick, man.
Someone's bound to.
It's probably about 5 in the morning.
I think I have that like sulfuric burp thing happening again. I can't even push on my stomach.
Hopefully I can get to go into town and maybe see a doctor tomorrow.
I can't sleep another night like this.
Gonna go get Chris tested for some bacterial infections.
Today in town we found out that Chris has some parasites in his stomach.
It's called Giardia. Giardia, I believe. And it's like living in my small intestine in here. And it causes like excessive bloating and stomach pressure.
¿Es de la agua o de la
Sí,
comida?
sí, sí. Y esa agua está contaminada.
Knowing that I had gotten a parasite simply from drinking water in the village was terrible. Almost 1 out of every 10 people in the world can't simply turn on a tap in their home and get fresh, clean water. But is not having clean water that big of a problem? 3.5 million people die every year from a water-related disease, which is almost the entire population of Los Angeles. Even if it doesn't kill you, could a sickness change your entire future? Being sick affected every minute of my life.
Basically, I haven't been able to eat anything,
This is just gonna make me vomit.
and I'm just going to the bathroom like 20 times a day,
This has been my best friend over the last few days.
and I'm just so dehydrated.
Every day, I saw our neighbors drinking the same water that got me sick. And I started thinking about our friend Carlos. If he gets sick, he isn't going to learn well in school. He won't grow as strong as he should. He can't work at his chores or in the fields. He can't be out playing soccer with his friends. If Carlos was sick for a long time or got sick a lot, these things could completely change his life. For his parents, Carlos' sickness means extra costs of doctors, medicine, time taking care of him and doing his chores. For someone surviving on just $1 a day, these extra costs are impossible. But what choice do you have when your children's lives depend on it? Protection from bad water is a big deal for Carlos' family. But getting clean water means spending time and money to purify it every single day. Why do people who are poor seem to pay more than those who are already wealthy for something as vital as clean water? In places like Europe, Australia, and North America, nearly everyone has clean water. But in developing areas in Southeast Asia, Africa, Central and South America, up to 50% of people live without a clean water source close by. In the US, pipes bring clean water right into our homes. But we noticed that in Peña Blanca, there was no infrastructure to make that possible. Other than big government investments, how can rural villages get the clean water they need? With local support, nonprofit organizations, and international aid, things like buying a filter system, storing spring water in a sanitary tank, digging a new well, or installing a pump that reaches underground aquifers are becoming viable options, even for poor communities. Could something as simple as having clean water be an upward spiral to help Carlos and his family bring themselves out of poverty? A healthy Carlos has more energy in school and can learn faster because he's there every single day. Carlos helps his dad in the fields and they make more money selling their crops. They buy more, healthier food, and Carlos's mom doesn't have to spend time every day boiling water. Without the extra costs of doctors and medicine, Carlos's family sends his sisters to school and even starts to save for a new business.
What's up, Carlos?
It's amazing how something so simple that I take for granted every day can make a huge impact for someone like Carlos.
Do you go with one fried egg or two fried eggs on there? Two fried eggs. I like the style. Oh, dude, I need cheese involved in this. Maybe some like caramelized onions and cheese, like mixed together. Put them on top of the eggs.
With a little spinach.
Throw the bacon. Oh, I put some spinach in there too. Throw the bacon on top of that. Sandwich the shit. Make a triple decker.
Oh, fried eggs.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Oh yeah, we got us some rice.
Deliciously cold breakfast of rice and beans, and so much of it. Generous portions. God, I'm so tired already.
1.5 pounds of black beans gives us 1,600 calories. 1.5 pounds of yellow rice gives us 2,000 roughly. But still, like 3,600 calories split amongst 4 people is not good enough for our daily value.
With just 1 bag of yellow rice, 1 bag of black beans, and a few bananas for the week, we're eating only 1/3 of the food we should be. Is there any way we could afford more food on our $1 a day budget?
La gente de aquí comen maíz porque es muy barato. Comida es muy caro.
So this is 15 pounds of corn, so it just makes tortillas for everyone to be able to feel full. This is pretty much what they survive on. We're gonna see if we can find some corn down here.
Corn is significantly cheaper than our original budget of rice. For the same price, get a lot more food, which we're all very excited about.
Perfecto. Nos vemos. Gracias.
So today's really exciting. Rosa came over bright and early and is going to teach us how to make some tortillas.
After we cooked it, we're getting it ready to grind it at the molino, which is up the hill, and they'll grind into a paste.
Tortillas were making a huge difference in our lives, and we found a way to get even more calories into this diet.
Ah, qué bien.
Oh, we just got lard.
We think that this will help us, basically doubles our fat content.
Now we're each eating close to 2,000 calories, and our diet of tortillas and lard is more like what our neighbors eat every day. Even though we feel more full, does this diet have the nutrition we need to be healthy? Guatemala is the highest rate of malnutrition in all of Latin America, and the 4th highest in the world. But what does it mean to be malnourished? There are 2 types of malnutrition. Acute malnutrition is not getting enough food. And chronic malnutrition is not getting the right balance of vitamins and nutrients. While not many Guatemalans look starved from acute malnutrition, over half the children in Guatemala are chronically malnourished before they turn 5. Most of these children are the indigenous poor, who survive on a diet of just salt and tortillas. Tortillas are both cheap and traditional, but they provide none of the essential vitamins and nutrients that come from fruits, vegetables, and proteins.
¿Da suficiente nutrición a los niños?
Solo tortilla, los niños no da nutrición. Como sus hijos de Víctor, ellos no tienen dinero para comprar comida, solo tortilla con sal y con café.
Malnutrition can start before you're even born. Sometimes pregnant mothers can't afford extra or better food. Their babies are born smaller, weaker, and underdeveloped. Without vitamins, these kids won't physically grow very big, which is called stunting. Without a strong immune system, even simple colds are hard to fight off. Malnutrition can have mental and psychological problems too, affecting learning and memory, and causing depression or OCD. A malnourished child simply does not have the same mental or physical potential to succeed as an adult or provide their family with more nutritious food. In this way, malnutrition perpetuates a cycle of poverty from one generation to the next. Among a global population of 7 billion, enough food is produced every year to feed 12 billion, but millions still live every day without enough to eat. Many of these people can't afford the food that's grown right around them. How are these food prices set? And why does cost isolate starving people from extra food that goes to waste? What would happen in Peña Blanca if corn became twice as expensive? We seem to have more questions now than we have answers. But we do know that sharing a meal brings people together, no matter where you are or how much you have.
Perfecto. Okay.
Sí.
We got 20 more leaves for our tamalitos.
¡Tenemos tamalitos! ¡Sí!
All because of her.
Muchísimas gracias.
Por nada.
Gracias.
Gracias. Sí, así es.
Cocinen muy rico ustedes.
Sí.
No, pero no es como el mismo de Rosa. Rosa es el mejor cocinero en el mundo.
What? I'll bet you a Quetzal that one of us slips off this edge before the end of the 8 weeks.
Well, I don't think it's that far.
Yeah, no, it's not that bad. And I mean, I'm just saying, like a slip, like it doesn't have to mean a fall.
I'm just more worried about like a landslide.
Yeah.
No se mira, están pasando la gente. Y nosotros estamos viendo en un momento, en una situación muy difícil. ¿Por qué? Porque hay derrumbes, hay desastres naturales, crecen ríos y siempre nos afecta. Ahora, gracias a Dios, no ha llovido tan fuerte como hace 2 años cuando pasó el huracán Ágata.
Disaster workers in Guatemala say at least a dozen people are dead. The tropical storm Agatha slammed into its Pacific coast Saturday.
Un ejemplo, si ya has construido, con tantos años de esfuerzo has construido, y viene un derrumbe, te tapa toda la casa, te quedaste en la pobreza. Cada vez cuando hay lluvia, nosotros nos da miedo vivir ahí.
We talked to some of our neighbors in Peña Blanca about the hurricane.
Como 2 años viene un huracán, se perdía todo.
¿Sí?
Ese producto se perdía. Como 8,000 quetzales perdemos.
8,000 quetzales de tu producto.
Sí, este producto.
Y entonces todo de este salió.
Salió. Y se va para todo.
Pedro's family of 8 all survives on his onion crop and the little work he can get as a day laborer. Losing 8,000 quetzales is the equivalent of $1,000. This money feeds Pedro's entire family for half the year and allows him to invest in another season of crops. If you lost everything, how could you afford to start over? Sometimes a government program can provide disaster relief after a big event like a tropical storm or hurricane. This emergency aid is different from development aid because its goal is to alleviate short-term crises with supplies like food, medical care, and temporary shelter. This disaster relief can be vital for a family's immediate survival. There will be months of costs and extra labor to grow a new crop. What help can a farmer get to cover this investment?
¿Qué hiciste cuando perdiste todo este?
Nosotros perdemos, pero prestamos un préstamo de echar un poco de otra vez la semilla.
Even though access to credit is really difficult for the extreme poor, some, like Pedro, are able to secure a loan from a traditional bank. Pedro can now invest in seeds and fertilizer to plant new crops. Without many other assets, though, Pedro must put his land as collateral against the loan. If he is unable to pay the loan back on time, he could lose the very land where he has invested everything. Since the Spanish conquest of Guatemala in the 1500s, many indigenous farmers have had to sell after a bad year or have been evicted from their farmsteads. Today, Guatemala has one of the most unequal land distributions in the world. Nearly 70% of the entire country's productive farmland is owned by only 2% of the population. These wealthy landowners and large plantations do not grow the corn and beans that people in Guatemala need to survive. Instead, they use the best land for cash crops like sugar, coffee, and biofuel, which are shipped off for export around the world. Guatemala is then forced to import basic commodities, which drives up the price for families who can no longer grow these things for themselves. Land distribution has remained skewed because few indigenous farmers have legal documentation of their property rights. The cast-off land left to family farms is often on steep hillsides or places with poor soil conditions. How could land distribution become more equal and respect the rights of these indigenous farmers? After losing everything, Pedro's family is just happy to have a successful crop of onions this year.
Muchísimas gracias. Mira. Oh, nice. Look, Pedro just gave us a gift of cebollitas. He's honored to share them with us and share what he grew himself. Adiós. Hasta mañana. Truck check, mañana.
One of the biggest questions we have here in Peña Blanca is this: what do most of our neighbors do for work? Do they have regular jobs? And if they do work, why are they still living on just $1 a day? We're learning that most of our neighbors work as farmers and day laborers. They head out to their fields every day, planting, weeding, and harvesting the crops. We want to learn what challenges come with being a farmer, and began to brainstorm some ideas.
Anything depends on like the soil content, which we have no idea about. Like it depends on like how much fertilizer we need. Like you just need to know how to farm, and we just like don't. I mean, we could wing it and try and hope that it works. But like, yeah.
Needing a job ourselves, we were deciding to rent a plot of land and see if we can grow our own radish crop.
So Zach, what did we just do?
Just planted our rabanos. First you flatten it out, then you sprinkle your radish seed. And then turn it over a little bit with a stick so the birds can't get it. Here with the second one. Okay. And then we put on our fertilizer. We already kind of lost on our whole organic farming thing, but never really said we were going to be organic.
This kind of work is known as having an informal job. Surprisingly, 75% of Guatemalans work at jobs in the informal economy. And around the world, 66% of those with jobs are employed informally. Not having a formal job means that you don't have a steady paycheck or get government benefits. As farmers, we would have to survive weeks with no income until our crops were ready to sell in the market. Or as day laborers, some days would bring in money and others wouldn't. Even though statistically we were living on just $1 a day, that doesn't mean that we would get $1 every day. It's actually an average of what we would make over an entire year. Some days we could have a bad crop or the price of corn could change. These factors would make our income unpredictable as well as irregular. We want to simulate having an income like this, so we're splitting our $1-a-day budget into random numbers from 0 to 9. Then every day we pick a number out of a hat, and that's our income for the day.
No looking.
Pulled a 9.
No way! You got a 9?
Or it's a 6.
That's a 9 for sure.
It's great news.
Hey,
Picked.
dude, he's good.
We drew really low numbers for 4 days.
I pulled 4 numbers in a row, and 2 of them were zeros and 2 of them were ones. So amongst the 4 of us, we had 12 cents a person to live on per day.
And, we woke up and it was market day, and we literally have no money for food.
It seems like we're gonna have to go a couple of days just on less rice and less beans, and we might not have any firewood either. So
We are starting to see how difficult having an unpredictable and irregular income is for people at this level. Victor and his family of 8 live just down the road from us. He has a small plot of land, but he can't grow enough to feed his family as a farmer. Every day, he looks for work as a day laborer in the larger farms and plantations around Peña Blanca. And even when Victor does have work, his wages are so small that it's impossible to save any money. Without work, Victor and his family quickly fall into a really difficult situation. We found out Victor's 2 sons, Julio and Chino, just had to drop out of school. Julio and Chino are only 9 and 12 years old. Every day, instead of going to school with their friends, they walk to their family's small plot of land to weed and care for the crops. Without an education, what chance do they have to find a job other than farming or being a day laborer? What would life in Peña Blanca be like if you did have a formal job?
Alright, Tono's giving me a ride to work, and we're gonna go check out his work in Panachel at the local hotel. ¿Estás listo? Sí. Alright, let's do this.
Sí, ahora este cuarto estoy limpiando ahora. Bueno. El gerente del hotel me dijo, venite mañana a las 8 de la mañana y vamos a hablar. Y cuando me dijo así, y yo con esa felicidad vine a contar, casi recuerda a medio mundo. Ahora voy a todos los días.
We got to finally visit Anthony at his work. His job as a service cleaner in a hotel doesn't seem like a glorified job, but really he has a formal income because of it, so he knows exactly how much and when he's going to get paid. And the value of that is huge.
While Anthony's formal job is making a huge difference for his family, there are still millions of people who struggle to find work every day. We're wondering if there are ways Guatemala could create more jobs for people like Victor, or if the poor could create jobs for themselves. In the long run, it's going to take a combination of economic growth, foreign investment, urbanization, and investment in infrastructure to create more jobs within Guatemala. But for now, we're just hoping that Victor finds work soon, that their crops grow well this year, and that Chino and Julio can go back to school soon.
Estados Unidos. Estamos viviendo en Peña Blanca por 2 meses.
Sí.
Por 2 meses, ¿por qué estamos estudiando?
Porque si estamos estudiando, then we're being polite, we're setting up.
Tiene 5 minutos.
Tiene 5 minutos para hablar con nosotros.
As economics majors, Chris and I were really interested in how do the person living under $1 a day manage their money. And to really understand that, we felt that we needed a very in-depth look at the financial lives of the poor.
What are we doing today?
We are going to observe some microfinance borrowers, have a short interview with them, and begin our research.
Había tiempos muy difíciles por su familia cuando eras joven y puedes describirlos. ¿Y cuántos meses cada año no tienen trabajo? Y en total cuántos préstamos ha recibido.
So much of what we want to learn comes down to this big question. How do over 1.1 billion people around the world survive on just $1 a day?
The idea is to be able to uncover all the various methods that they come up with in order to balance out payments throughout a year.
What is it like to budget such a small amount of money? How do you possibly afford a big expense like repairs on your house or your kid's education? Is every dollar spent on what you need to survive? Or are people thinking about saving and borrowing for their future? During school, we learned that in Western countries like the United States, 9 out of 10 people have savings accounts at a formal bank and credit cards to help manage their money. But among those living in poverty, we're surprised to find out that only 1 out of 10 has a bank account. In total, that's over 2.5 billion people around the world who don't have access to something that many of us use every single day. Instead, the poor save money under their mattresses. They borrow from friends, and often have to use local moneylenders for emergency loans. These are not reliable places to save and borrow. Hiding money around the house can leave it at risk of being stolen. Asking your friends for money can put a strain on their finances. And borrowing from moneylenders can have extremely high interest rates, often over 150%. We heard about some of these problems firsthand.
Chef de Leon. 45.
Yonata told us how she had set aside money for repairs to their house and their kids' education, but someone had stolen it. Without any ways to earn for herself, Yonata couldn't afford to keep her 2 youngest children in school. So instead, why didn't Yonata save her money with the formal bank in town? For Yonata, the truck ride to town is expensive, and there's no bank or ATM close to Peña Blanca. Even after getting to the bank, Yonata couldn't complete the paperwork to open an account, since her Spanish reading and writing skills are really low. Without a steady income or any larger assets, there's no way Yonata would qualify for even the smallest loan that the bank offers. If Yonata can't find work herself, who will provide for her family now? One of the reasons we chose to go to Peña Blanca is that many of the women here are using a service called microfinance through the Grameen Bank.
Headed to our first borrower meeting, and we can see kind of what the impacts of some of microfinance loans has been on some other women in the community. So I'm breathing a little heavily. Walking up the hill.
Every 2 weeks, a representative from Grameen travels all the way out to Peña Blanca to meet with Yonata and her neighbors. Grameen offers small collateral-free loans and savings accounts. These services are known as microfinance. Yonata used a simple $150 loan to buy a weaving frame and fabric. Now she makes her own money selling traditional weavings, and she saves it reliably in her Grameen savings account. Every 2 weeks, she pays back a small installment on her loan, plus 15% extra interest. This interest covers Grameen's operating costs, so that it can survive as a sustainable business, instead of as a typical charity. For the first time in Yonata's life, she's in control of her own money.
It was so huge to see the potential for what even the simple access to credit can do in the lives of our neighbors, of our close friends.
Doña Maria runs the local store. Luisa sells firewood to the whole town. Rosita grows her own onions. Rosa is soon to have a chicken coop.
Ahorita ya tengo casi 950. Ya ahorro allá. Voy a comprar bastantes pollo y voy a hacer una casa de pollo. Un grande casa.
And Yonata provides for her family with her own money.
The fact that they're giving it to the women is allowing for families to develop. It's supporting the community feel, it's supporting the family feel, it's supporting that role to continue on.
I'm learning a little bit of Cachiquel, which is the local language. Pretty much remember one word of Cachiquel. It's karsh. Sekur. Or Sekur. It's a very guttural language, so it's tough for us to really get down. Achikavi. Victor. Achikavi. Chuachike. In English is see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow is difícil.
Only 60% of Guatemalans speak fluent Spanish. Most of those who don't are indigenous people who live in rural villages. Is this language barrier one of the reasons why indigenous people are more likely to be poor? What effect does not speaking Spanish have on someone's life? We wonder if you'd be able to go to school outside your own village. Would you be able to fill out an application? If you were a farmer, could you sell your crops in the city or even in the local market? We wondered if the people in the village nearby would speak your specific dialect. If you got sick, would you go to a doctor in town? How would you tell him what's wrong, or understand what medication he's prescribing? What if your kids got sick? We wondered how many people in Peña Blanca were actually learning Spanish. At school, we met the director, Juan Carlos. He showed us around, and we were surprised to learn that most classes are actually taught in Spanish. We wondered how many of these students finished school here.
Hay un 40% de estudiantes que no terminan por falta de recursos.
Sí,
no tienen para venir a la escuela, entonces tienen que ir a trabajar. Sí. Y hay otro porcentaje de niñas que optan por casarse. Una niña de 13 años decidió terminar el estudio para casarse.
A los 13 años. Sí.
13 años, sí.
Achikavi.
Chiquibita.
Regina Coco.
Sí, miren, Zach.
Pues ella ya no puede hablar de español, pues.
Sí.
Ella ahorita no tiene estudio ahorita. Pero el papá no tiene pisto, ¿verdad? No tiene pisto.
Why are kids from poor families less likely to be in school if public school is free? Regina's parents still need to pay for uniforms, books, supplies, and transportation. For her father, who makes less than $1 a day, these are big costs. Most days, Regina has to take care of her siblings and help around the house, so her mom can work in the fields. This competition for Regina's time takes her away from studying and may even force her to drop out. As a Mayan girl, Regina also faces a barrier of cultural expectations. Many Mayan girls leave school and get engaged when they are just teenagers. In fact, 50% of girls in Guatemala marry and start a family before they turn 19. For a girl like Regina, who is both Mayan and extremely poor, what chance does she have to get an education in the face of all these barriers? What changes this paradigm of girls not going to school?
Utsawach.
Utsamatiosh. Ilut.
Utsawatiosh.
Millions of kids around the world never get the chance to go to school. But with the help of a recent scholarship, Regina is on her way for the first time.
Gracias a usted, sí.
Vamos a cantar la canción del Bimbo. ¿Lo saben? ¡Sí!
¿Cómo estás?
Estamos un poquito tristes porque necesitamos salir mañana muy temprano.
Yo también muy triste.
Oh, yo también.
Sí, muchísimas
gracias.
Los voy a extrañar yo siempre.
Hermano para mí.
Sí, yo también.
Muchísimas gracias.
Sí.
Bueno, amigos.
I've learned more on this trip than I ever thought I would.
You can do this, you can do just about anything.
Yeah.
Really.
Welcome to Seattle. The local time is 2:20 p.m.
Rolling, camera. Audio rolling.
Audio rolling. Coming back to the US, we were all in pretty bad shape.
Sean was covered in bed bugs still, and Ryan just wanted a milkshake.
Can we seriously order some milkshakes? I mean, is that kosher? Yeah.
I'd lost 22 pounds and had both Giardia and E. coli.
Don't tell them, but I just threw up.
Grab something from here.
I went to 3 different clinics. We discussed my symptoms, and she said I had E. coli again. So that's what I'm going with right now.
I'm wearing a children's large.
And it fits nicely too.
Fits nice and snug.
Harder than the sickness, the flea bites, or anything else was the question that we kept asking ourselves.
What do we do now? We had survived this crazy adventure, but it turned out to be so much more. Rosa and Anthony became more than just people in poverty. They were our close friends.
Now thousands of miles away from Peña Blanca, how could we make a difference for the people that we left behind?
So Sean got down to sorting through 300 hours of footage and started putting together a 1-hour documentary.
I mean, I think we went through about 45 rough cuts of the film. I mean, it took endless hours of editing.
This journey changed the way we thought about poverty, and we got some big opportunities to share with the rest of the world.
If there's one thing that we learned in Peña Blanca, it's that poverty is not only about statistics. Poverty is about hopes and dreams. Moving forward, we want to mobilize young people all over the world to develop and scale new solutions to global poverty.
From there, we launched our own nonprofit called Living on One, and we took our documentary on tour to students all around the US.
We were amazed by the amount of young people just like us who are searching for a way to make a difference. We even got to go back to Guatemala and share with our friends how their stories were inspiring thousands of people. One of the things that stuck with me most is that little things can make a huge difference in the lives of the extreme poor.
And whether it's access to clean water, a new stove, access to a small loan, these things seem simple, but they're fundamental in helping provide an opportunity to allow someone to bring themselves out of poverty.
And for us, it all comes back to that dirt floor in Peña Blanca and the people there that changed our lives forever.